Today we're going to be talking about an upcoming game called Aeon Drive. It's a speedrunning platforming game made by 2 Awesome Studio, listed as a 2020 release. There's a demo set to drop tomorrow, August 27th, 2020. Before I hop in, the game is still in beta, so what I'm talking about in this video may not necessarily apply to the final release. The basic premise is that you're a space pilot stranded in a cyberpunk version of Barcelona, and presumably you're racing against time to do something, somewhere. I say presumably because the version of the game I was playing didn't have a story, and I'm not sure if there's going to be a story when the game's actually released. Of course, because this is an indie title, the developers were practically required to go with pixel art for the art style, but fortunately here it does actually look quite good, with a few exceptions. I think the character could stand out more against some of the backdrops, but it was never to the point that I lost sight of where I was, so I'm fine with that. The music in Aeon Drive is great. I'm a sucker for synthwave music in general though, and it suits the setting that's been built here. I didn't find any of the music particularly earwormy, but it's not really a bad thing to have music that doesn't stand out in a speedrunning game, as you're likely to hear the tracks again and again if you're committed to getting a good time on the leaderboard. Speaking of leaderboards, Aeon Drive has a leaderboard system you'll find at the end of each level, displaying how you rank against other people who have played it before you. This is a great way to feel a deep sense of shame when you realize you're always at the bottom of the list, but it's also a great motivator to make you want to try again. The game has 2 main mechanics, the first of which is a teleportation dagger, which allows the player to toss and teleport to wherever the dagger sticks. There's also a what is described as time warping system. Both of these abilities for me seem like they were probably cooler on paper than they end up being once you're actually playing the game. The teleportation dagger makes it feel too much like you're starting and stopping every time you throw it. I really wish you could activate the teleport even if the dagger wasn't stuck into a wall, which would really let it operate more like a dash. On the time warping mechanic, boy, I wish this actually was a mechanic to let you rewind time, or, manipulate time in any interesting way. What we actually have in the game is the ability to add time to a clock when you push a button. And that's cool, I guess, but it doesn't really have much flavor to it. The object of the game, as it is in many other speedrunning games, is to get to the finish as quickly as you can, while avoiding dangerous pits, scary enemies, and your own ineptitude. Unlike most speedrunning games, however, Aeon Drive has you moving at a slower, more deliberate pace, rather than really racing to the finish. This results in 2 things happening. One is that you don't feel fast. You move more like a Mega Man than a Meat Boy, and while this might suit some players, it doesn't really scream speedrunner to me. The other thing slowing your movement does is encourages you to engage more with enemies you encounter. If you were faster, or had more mobility options, you could tactfully avoid enemy encounters, but here, you need to pick off some enemies to make it through parts of the level. The controls feel clunky sometimes, especially when you're doing things like wall jumping. You'll lose momentum sometimes, and it can make things just feel less tight. Unfortunately, I also found a lot of weirdness and unexpected behavior when playing the game. Speedrunners need to be precise above all else, but you can see some erratic behavior when you encounter jump pads and sometimes even walls. I'll sacrifice almost anything else in a speedrunning game for control accuracy and good game feel. So let's wrap things up. Did I have fun with the game? Yeah, a little bit. I think that Aeon Drive is the kind of game that, in its current state, could be so much more. It needs to nail the feeling of movement before release. And if you have an unpolished platforming game, you have to realize that this is a super saturated genre of game. You have to really do something to stand out. I think that so many parts of the game feel so unrefined that it's actually kind of tough for me to make a recommendation on this one. If you've got a recommendation for something I should make a video on, go ahead and leave that in the comments. Otherwise, I hope you liked the video, and if you did, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe so you can get more of this kind of fine content. Until the next time, I'll see you around.